G'day folks, Links here, and welcome back to another episode of Nomifactory. So been a busy week this week in the world. So done a bunch of base updates, but and also got the assembly line all crafted and ready. So we're going to cap off the video with building 2 assembly lines and automating them in Applied Energistics. But first, bit of a recap. So I've automated extended crafting, which is these recipes, like if we look at, say, the tier 3 miner, for example, or even the tier 2. Tier 2 needs advanced and tier 3 needs elite. And the way that this works is a mod called packaged auto and packaged extended crafting. And the way you start it is you start off with this thing called the package recipe encoder, and you put these package holders into it. You need to put minimum of 2 in, and you encode recipes onto them by selecting the crafting type, so elite or I don't have the tier 2 in here apparently. So you select the crafting type. And basically, that's how you, and then you encode it. You encode it similar to a pattern, but the difference is each of these recipe holders can hold 20 recipes per thing. I might actually, I don't know where these buttons are coming from, but I might actually see if I can disable the textures, find which textures these buttons are, but I think they're just the standard Minecraft texture. And then you basically just save it. And then what you do is you take your 2 recipe holders and you put one into a packager, and you put the other one into an unpackager. And these are all Applied Energistics devices, so they basically can be anywhere on the network as long as they're on the same network. And these crafters are also Applied Energistics devices. I believe they work similar to molecular assemblers. So basically, you just place them adjacent to an unpackager, and the unpackager will distribute crafts amongst all adjacent package crafters. One thing to point out, so the quest mentions that you have to put the unpackager on top, but it also kind of contradicts itself, because it says you can also do what I'm doing, which is where you just place a package crafter on each face of the unpackager, and basically that is the latter is what's correct. So basically, I suspect there's been maybe an update to extended to packaged auto or something like that. Yeah, there's probably been an update to either that or the it probably will be packaged auto, since that's the mod that the unpacker comes from. But yeah, I suspect there's been an update or something like that, and then the quest book just hasn't been changed to reflect that. So you don't, or it has been updated, to say that you can do this, but not updated to remove the reference to having to place this on top. Because I'm fairly sure when I used to play in 1.6, like 3 odd years ago, you could only have like one of these unpackages per crafter, and you would basically put it on top. You would put the unpackager on top of the crafter. But now you can treat them like molecular assemblers and just surround the unpackager with them. Which is what I've done, and I've just left the bottom side accessible, but technically I could put one on the bottom too. I'm not sure if this will be enough, because these package crafters are somewhat slow. I think they can be sped up using world accelerators, but yeah, they are quite slow, so I will have to, I may have to make some more. But for now, this will do, because I'm only using them to craft micro miners and some other associated bits. I've got room here for the ultimate one eventually, which is the green one, and then just spare room if need be. But I can't make the ultimate one yet, I don't think. And this is gated behind late IV because you need osmiridium. So to make I think it's to make these and the unpackager, you need osmiridium, which requires an LUV mixer or a multi-pot mixer with 2 IV energy hatches. So this is automated extended crafting. And the nice thing is it looks like you can have a single packager with a recipe holder that actually distributes to multiple unpackages. So basically, if I ever needed to scale this, move all this somewhere else and give it its own chunk, and then figure out the best way to position everything. But as long as you have, if you have this holder and you place identical holders into multiple unpackages, my understanding is that it will actually distribute the crafts across those unpackages. So yeah, it's actually quite good. But yeah, it's very similar to AE patterning, except for the fact that in order for the item to be craftable, you essentially have to craft 2 copies of the you have to pattern 2 copies, essentially. One to go in the packager and one to go in the unpackager. And these are just applied energistics devices as well, so that's why they can just be placed adjacent to this and get powered. And then they work similar to molecular assemblers, so the unpackager puts the items in, and then these all auto-eject back into the network when the craft is complete. So with that, we can now auto-craft microminers, which is really good. And we can auto-craft a couple of other things as well. So I've got more crafting multi-blocks. So I've got a multi-block lathe, a canning machine, which is mostly for making the microminer engine cores and also spray cans. I've got the multi-block extruder, and I've got the multi-block assembler. So the assembler is an interesting one. So each one of these, as you can see by the ME interface names, that each one of these is a different circuit, and then this one is just a circuit 0 because the cables are all circuit 0 in Nomi CEu. And then these ones are my random interfaces, which have programmed circuit cards. But some of these recipes will have fluids. And realistically, we can... assembler recipes only need 1 fluid. There's only ever 1 fluid input for assembler recipes. So what I've done is I've got a single fluid hatch, an EV1, but I don't want multiple crafts to go into the assembler if there is a fluid in the hatch, and the reason being is GT CEu multi-blocks, they support distinct buses, but they don't support any way to make the hatches distinct. Whereas in, say, GTNH 2.8, you can color a bus and a hatch the same color, and then they will be checked together when the recipe check happens, which is one of the ways to automate multi-blocks such as the LCR in GTNH. There's no such lock in here, so for items, we have distinct buses, but we can't do distinct. There's no way to sort of make the hatch distinct. So what I've done is I have on each of these interfaces, I have a fluid P2P, and then the output for all these fluid P2Ps is the input hatch. And then all these interfaces have blocking mode enabled. So if there is any fluid in here and another craft comes in, that craft will be blocked until the fluid in the hatch is consumed. So in theory, we should never end up with conflicting recipes or anything like that caused by fluids, which is good. So I can't take full credit for this. This was inspired by the quest book entry that talks about assembly line automation, where they do something similar to this, but they do it with items instead, to ensure that blocking mode works properly for the assembly line. Because the way you do that in GTNH, especially if you saw my last GTNH video where we built the assembly line, you use an advanced blocking card in GTNH, which means that blocking mode works with subnets, but there's no such thing in Nomi CEu, unfortunately. So blocking mode only looks at the inventory that the interface is directly connected to. But we'll be looking at assembly line automation soon. But yeah, I've done something similar here with the mixer as well. So this is my circuit 1 mixer, but I also have a random mixer with a programmed circuit, and then we just have fluid P2Ps in blocking mode to control blocking mode behavior for the handful of recipes I have that need fluids. And then this mixer is just, again, some random different circuits But these don't handle fluid recipes. But I could easily copy this design over to this one to make it handle fluids if need be. So next big thing is ore processing. So as you can see, the horrible single block abomination is gone, and I've gone for a design similar to my GTNH one, but arguably my GTNH one was much better implemented than this one. I don't know why this one just turned out. No, I don't know. It turned out a bit uglier for some reason, but it's functional. It works very well. The AE filtering setup was that I did in GTNH was kind of inspired by, or heavily inspired by, Threefold's design that he did in his GTNH run, in his Season 2 run, where you just use applied energistics subnets for all the filtering. There's no need for subnets in Nomi in terms of channels, because Nomifactory has channels turned off. But they're still good for filtering and splitting workloads. So we have, macerator, ore washer, chemical bath, and then we have 2 centrifuges and a thermal centrifuge, which we'll eventually put another thermal centrifuge down. And then we have an LCR for the dense ores, because some of the microminers produce. I don't know if there's one. I don't know if there's one here or not. But some of the microminers produce dense ores, and basically, yeah, here we go, dense iron ore, and you just wash these in an LCR, or process these in an LCR with nitric acid, and each dense ore gets you 16. So this mission, for example, gets you 1,024 iron ore. So all the dense ores just come in here, they get turned into their regular versions, and then end up in ore processing. So this is connected to the mainnet with if I can get, yep, this is connected to the mainnet. So anything that doesn't get processed goes back to mainnet, and then certain items from mainnet, so like radium, salt, ashes, pyrite dust, they always get sent to ore processing. And then we also have another filter here, which is just ore star. So anything that is an ore gets sent from mainnet into the ore processing net. And the source of all those ores will pretty much always be these microverse projectors. So these are the tier 2s, and I've got the tier 1s here. And there's been a bit of a change to how these are set up. So these are now using ME interface P2Ps. These work, the concept is exactly the same as the ones in GTNH, but they do work a little bit different. So the ones in GTNH, the input interface is the input P2P is the interface that you put the patterns into, whereas it doesn't work like that with these. So as you can see, I can't right-click them. The way it actually works is the inputs have to be facing an ME, have to be attached to an ME interface. So we have 2 ME interfaces here. This is the one you're probably a bit familiar with already, where I can just manually request a mission. And then I've added an auto crafting one, where there's stuff that I specifically know I need lots of. So like I'll need perfect diamond. I know I'll need emeralds and perfect diamonds for recipes coming up. And I also need a lot of tungsten dust for various metals, etc. So rather than me having to manually send missions whenever I run low on those ingredients, I've just allowed the network to I've just made it so the network can request these specifically. And the way these P2Ps work is that they will parallelize across outputs. So I can basically parallelize across these 2 microminers, across these 2 projectors, and same with these bigger ones as well. So this one is just for iridium dust, and this one currently has nothing in it. There's no manual missions in this one that I'm currently running. So yeah, it's and then this is miscellaneous ore processing, which at the moment just has a multi-smelter and an electrolyzer. If you ever look at this while it's running, these do actually light up and change color while the electrolyzer is running. And this is all basically what you would expect. So this is just all ores and crushed centrifuge ores going to the macerator. And then we have some specific items as well that go into like gems and moon turf and whatnot that go into there. And then basically crushed ores go into the washers, as you'd expect. And then specific things go into the chemical baths. So specific crushed ores. And also scheelite and tungstate dust because I thought we might as well do tungsten processing because tungsten processing is only a 2-step process in GTCEU. I thought we might as well do tungsten processing inside ore processing because it doesn't take very long and it's only a 2-step process. It's the chemical bath and then the electrolyzer. And then the orange, and these are all connected via wireless. So if we look under, say, here, this is the subnet, and we use advanced stocking input buses. These are available in IV in NOMI CEU. So we use advanced stocking input buses to just pull all items in the subnet into the machine. And then the yellow is the output back to the filter subnet. So, and then this one is the same. So yeah, it works really well. It works really well. We do have, and then we have specific dusts that we send to the centrifuges. And in my waste nothing approach, I do process all the stone dust that comes out. I should add Neverac and N stone dust to this as well. But yeah, I do process all the stone dust that comes out of the washing. You know, waste not, want not. There's no harm in processing it. So yeah, so that's my ore processing. That's my oil processing setup, and there's been a little bit of a change to oil. So we're now using these large fractionating distilleries, which do 4 parallels per thing. 4 parallels. So this is effectively the same as having 3 DT quads or 12 distillation towers. 2 of these are running at IV and 1's running at EV for now, just to, well, I mean, we're out of oil anyway. But, yeah, I need to upgrade these to the next tier, but I can't do that until I get the assembly line. And one thing I did forget to do is I forgot to level emit toluene, which is quite an important ingredient in high-octane gasoline. So I woke up to realize that this had completely drained, and I was literally surviving off the fuel left in the generators. Luckily, I caught it in time and I managed to sort it, but it took about 5 or 6 hours for the whole system to recover. I was really dreading having to set the diamond power back up again to kickstart everything, but it was fine. And I still had plenty of charge in the battery as well. So the plan for today is obviously I'm going to get the assembly lines built. But there is going to be a little bit of a redesign as well. So the original, especially for people who might have been watching for a while, originally I had the idea that this first row was, except for this chunk, this first row was mostly going to be for things like fuel production, which is still what it is, really. This was producing diamond power, oil, more oil, trees for biomass for hog. But this next row was going to be for power generation. So basically fuel would be produced in this row and then it would be consumed in this row. But I, unfortunately, I completely forgot about that and I just started slapping down all these random passive setups in here. So the end result of that is that to get power, I did mention using RFP2P for these generators. In my last video, I changed that literally after I uploaded the video because I realized that's a really bad idea because it means you're paying the AE2 tax twice. You're paying the 5% power tax twice. Once when it goes from here to the battery and then once from the battery to the final destination. So I am using conduits. These Signalum conduits can handle a amp of ZPM, which is what this is producing right now. It's producing 16 amps of IV. But it results in this ugly mess where I just have a really long Signalum conduit going all the way to the battery. So I want to change that. So what I'm going to do is, because it doesn't matter where I consume the fuel, because I can transport the fuel either with AE or with Ender fluid link covers, it doesn't matter where I actually produce the fuel. So I can keep all the fuel production, I can keep the hog production over there, but I can move the generators to this chunk once I get rid of these auto crafting machines, which these can all go because they've now been replaced with multi-blocks. But yeah, basically the idea is get rid of all these auto crafting single blocks, and then put the diesel generators here. sorry, the hog generators here, and then next power gen goes here, etc., etc., and then either use a I've not chunk loaded those, and then use either use a traditional Greg Tech backbone, so maybe I won't move those until I get LUV dynamo hatches, and then I can run them at LUV. So it could be that I have 16 amps of LUV, and I transform that up to ZPM, which means it'd be 4 amps of ZPM, and then I could have a backbone of I could have a 64 amp ZPM backbone, and run that into a 64 amp energy hatch here. So the idea is I just want to bring power closer to the LSC, or power substation is what it's called in CEU. Just to keep everything clean. I feel like it's really dirty that I've had to run a massive conduit from there to over here. I also need to think about power scaling. Conduits typically only support 1 amp of the tier below them, so Signalum supports 1 amp of ZPM. The Enderium supports 1 amp of UV. But when you get to, say, here, this supports 33 million EU per tick or something like that, which I can't remember how much UV is. UV. So if we look at, say, so UV is 524,000. There is UHV as well, actually. Here we go. So UHV is 2 million. So yeah, I think, and I don't think there's anything after that. There might be a UIV. No, UEV. No, UHV is, UHV is basically the last tier in CEU, or at least in Nomi CEU. I believe the API, the API I think does actually let you add custom tiers, but obviously Nomi CEU caps out at UHV. So in theory, I actually don't have to worry about conduit scaling once I get to this, because this would support 16 amps of UHV, I think, per conduit. So we'd be all right. And I can make these relatively soon. Draconium, I'm only blocked on the fact that I don't have Naquita. If we have a look, I'm fairly sure the only thing I'm blocked on is that I don't have Naquita. Because it's LUV, which I've got, and so I just don't have Naquita coils. So that's all I'm blocked on there, and then I can make Draconium. To make Draconium, I need to be able to make Enderium, and I think the only thing blocking me from making Enderium is also Naquita. Yeah, the only thing blocking me from making Enderium is also Naquita. I have Krypton to speed it up, and although I'm not sure what else in it. Oh yeah, I have all these things. Yeah, so. And then Draconic Superconductor is what do we need for Draconic Superconductor? It's just Draconium wire in a... Can you actually make a Draconic Superconductor ingot? I don't think you can. No. Yeah, no, you can't. So Draconic Superconductor is simply Draconium wire in a vacuum freezer with liquid Neverstar, which is just, Neverstars, which we can make. So... it's expensive. It's very expensive, but Neverstars aren't too terrible to make now. So yeah, in LUV, so I could get the max conduit in LUV, which means I wouldn't have to worry about conduit scaling again. At the moment those generators are maxing out that conduit. So I can't upgrade those generators until I get Enderium. But if I get Enderium, then I can get Draconium. And if I can get Draconium, then it looks like I can get Draconic Superconductor. So I might as well just go to, at the very least, go to Draconium conduits, and then go to Draconic Superconductor later on. But yeah, I want to bring the power closer to the LSC. I'm gonna keep calling it that. It's a PSS, but I'm gonna keep calling it LSC because I've got GTNH on the brain. So yeah, so that's what these chunks are going to be. They're basically going to become the power generation row. I was going to look at plasma after hog, but I think I might actually look at Naquita reactors. because they seem quite economical to run in terms of the amount of naquita they consume. But I can actually do 16 more of those, I believe, with my current fuel and oil setup and whatnot. I think I can actually run 32 of those generators in total. But we'll talk about power when I actually get around to doing it. I'm very sorry. I've rambled. I've rambled quite a lot. I don't really think... I think I've covered everything. I do have quantum circuits and advanced SMDs now, but obviously there's nothing really much to show about those. I've been able to craft those for ages. It's just I finally got around to doing them because the assembly line is extremely expensive on ZPM circuits. So I obviously wanted to cut that down. So this is where the assembly line is going to go. This is going to be 2 wall shared, and then another 2 wall shared. And then this chunk will also probably be another 4 as well. But for now, I'm just going to do 2. And then what we're going to do with this chunk is we're going to put the... when we get the data bank, we're going to put the data bank in this chunk. And then when we get the research station, we'll probably put that in this chunk as well. So the way assembly line recipes work is they are the results of these scans. So if you look here, it says assembly line construction data, LUV electric piston, scan, what is that, sensor, basically all the LUV components and the LUV energy hatch. And the way you get that is by putting it in this scanner. So if we say LUV dynamo, which I will actually need to scan, the LUV dynamo hatch is made in the assembly line, but you need to scan it first, and you get it by scanning an IV dynamo hatch. And that will spit you out the data stick, and then you put the data sticks into this data access hatch, and that controls what the assembly line can craft. And eventually you can get the data bank, which is this nice little multi-block, and the data bank essentially allows you to store recipes in it and then hook it up to assembly lines using optical transmission cables. So, but for now, we can't do that. The databank requires naquita, so we need to do NACline first, which means we need to do nuclear craft to do NACline. So the plan for today is I'm going to get the assembly line multi-block built, and then I'll show you guys how to automate it in Nomifactory CEu, and then we'll cap off the episode there because I want to talk about nuclear stuff in its own video. So the next video will likely be about nuclear and NACline and all the other goodies that will unlock. So I will see you guys in a few minutes. We've got all the stuff in the inventory. It's just not very fun to watch me build a multi-block. So I'll get the assembly lines built, and then we'll come back and look at getting them automated. So I'll see you guys in a few. Right, and we are back. So I've had a bit of an interesting time building this. The rules are a little bit different from GTNH. So something I swear I did when I built the assembly lines in GTNH was share the data access hatch. That is not possible in CEu. It can't be shared. And it always has to be on the same side as the controller, because I think when I did it in NH, I was able to just put it here and share it across 2 assembly lines. But that's not an issue. You can duplicate data sticks. So after your first scan, you can just put an empty data stick in along with one of the scanned ones to duplicate it. Something else that's I realized is a difficulty is the original way I was planning to automate them with ME interfaces doesn't work because I have to account for fluids. But in Nomifactory normal mode, ordered assembly is set to false for the assembly lines. So you still have to do the ingredient separation with the ULV input buses, but you don't have to put the ingredients in the right order. I believe this also means, because ordered fluid assembly is also set to false, I believe this means we may be able to use an ME input hatch. If we can't, then I will have to figure something out. But what I want to do is I just want to set up a... I wonder. What I might actually do is get all these ingredients Oh, I don't have a thing to automate rounds. Rounds are just nuggets in a lathe. Okay, that's not too terrible then. So what I might do is I have a ME interface. Now, these can only hold 9 recipes initially, and the advanced one can only hold 16. So one interface will be more than enough. So the way we're going to do this is we're going to have a ME interface P2P there. We're then going to put the block interface there, and we're going to enable blocking mode. Now, blocking mode does work with P2P interfaces. P2P ME interfaces do respect blocking mode. So what that now means is that we can put 2 more ME interfaces, one there and one there, and then we need to link them. I've not had great luck using the advanced memory card for these. They are in theory, it is in theory supported, but unfortunately I've not had the greatest of luck, so I just use the normal memory card for these. And then the way that you do this is you actually want we actually have just the right number of item P2Ps. Oh. So we want an item P2P on the interface. We then want one on the first on the first input bus, and we need a couple, and we need more. And the reason why we want that is because the first bus, this first bus will be how we test blocking mode. And then the way the rest of it works is the other item. Let's have a look. There we go. The other ones go on the pipes, on the GT item pipes. And the reason this works is because ordered assembly is set to false. So it doesn't matter what order the items go into the input buses, as it just matters that there's only one item in each input bus, which, because these are ULV and they can only hold one stack, that's perfectly fine. Now, in hard mode, I believe ordered assembly is actually set to true. And I believe the way to automate it in hard mode is actually using Actually Addition's lasers. But we're not playing hard mode. So, but yeah, when I used to play in 1.6, I played in hard mode, and hard mode in 1.6 did require ordered assembly. So the way this works now is we simply do U as an input, and then U as an output, and U as an output. Yep, and then we do the same for this one. So we clear it, and then we grab U, and then we do U and U. So what will happen now is the ME interface. Where are we? The ME interface has blocking mode enabled, and we'll actually call it assembly line. And what will happen is the ME interface will dispatch the craft into this P2P ME interface, which will put it into either that one or that one. And when it arrives in either one of these outputs, it will then go straight into a item P2P, which has 2 outputs. It has the first bus and it has the pipe. The first bus is the inventory that will be checked for the purposes of blocking mode, because, like I said, these P2P ME interfaces, they pass the blocking mode status up to the parent interface, up to the input interface. So blocking mode will be fully respected. The only thing I'm unsure about is fluids, which we're going to test right now. So I don't have liquid soldering alloy. So there's a couple of things I need to passive. Because the problem is this setup, because I'm using ME input things, I can't trigger crafting of these because I'm currently auto crafting sodium potassium. I just happen to have some in the network because I batch at 64 at a time. So I'm just going to go quickly set up passive stuff for these two, and then we'll come back and we'll test it. And hopefully ordered assembly means that we can get away with just having one fluid hatch. One other thing I want to point out is because it doesn't quite make it clear on the NEI preview. So the NEI preview does show that the hatch needs to be at the top, but normally they have a thing. Normally they have a thing here that says like, that this has to be on the top layer or whatever. The tooltip doesn't tell you explicitly, but energy hatches have to be on the top, so they have to be in this top row. Which is the same as GTNH, but yeah, it's the but yeah, the energy hatches have to be on the top row, which the NEI thing doesn't necessarily explicitly tell you. However, you can right click the block and it will show you candidate blocks, and in this case, it's either a solid steel machine casing or an energy hatch. But anyway, I will be back in a couple of minutes. I just want to get some liquid soldering alloys set up, and then we'll go from there and actually test if an ME input hatch will work. If it won't, and we actually need separate fluid hatches, then I'll have to figure something out. And I think that means we'll have to not wall share, which won't be great. So yeah, I'll see you guys in a few minutes. Alrighty, here we go. Moment of truth. Let's see if we can... I realized I didn't have any samarium, so I just cooked some up manually, because you need samarium for LUV components, and I have a bunch of dust, so I just cooked some up manually in one of my EBFs. So let's see whether or not this will actually work. So we're making the rods. I had to craft an IV polarizer for the long magnetic rods, so that is something I do need to... I need to get the multi-block polarizer. I'll get that after I've done this video. Oh, here we go. Hey, so we can use an ME... Oh, right, okay. So, oh, look, it has an animation and everything that actually lights up according to the number of... No, that can't be according to the number of inputs, because it doesn't have that many inputs in the recipe. And there we go. That's our first LUV component. Unfortunately, we can't make a load of LUV stuff right now. But the nice thing is, this does confirm that at least in normal mode, caveat, we're playing normal mode, not hard mode, you can just use an ME input hatch for the fluids. So you don't actually have to do multiple fluid hatches. I've just manually crafted this soldering alloy for now. I just set up an auto crafting pattern for it. I will go away and I'll go away and get it passived. So then the hatches can just restock. But yeah, that's awesome. So that is assembly line automation. So again, just really quick rundown, and then we'll wrap up the video. And that is that we have an ME interface with the pattern in it, which distributes the craft to one of these two P2P ME interface outputs. That shoves it into a P2P item tunnel, which has one output pointing at an LUV input bus, and then the other output is pointing at the pipes that lead to the other input buses. And the reason we do it this way is so this can act as a blocker for the purposes of blocking mode. And then at the end, we just have a standard ME output bus. And then for fluids, we're just using ME input hatches. And yeah, that works. This probably won't work in hard mode, because I believe hard mode does actually have a requirement for ordered assembly. So you would actually have to do something else in hard mode. I suspect the answer is still lasers, maybe. Actually, additions item lasers, I think, is still the answer, because I think they could do like descending priority or something like that. But yeah, so that's the assembly line setup, which means we can now make LUV stuff. And some of the first LUV stuff I make will likely be the dynamo hatch, which I do have a thing for in here. I just need to do all the ME patterns. But yeah, for now, I can only do 9 recipes in each assembly line, which means I can only do 9 in here. But that's fine. And then eventually, once we get trinium and a couple of other bits, we'll be able to work our way towards getting data banks and putting them here or something like that. and then you just swap this out with a optical data reception hatch and hook it up to the data banks. So yeah, that'll be really really good. I do wonder, can you share? Can you at least share the hatches? No, that's really annoying. I'm really sad that you can't do that. That you can't share the data reception hatch, because then I could have just put it there or something like that. But it's really annoying, so I'm gonna have to put it like, actually I could put it here and run the cables over like that, I guess, because the data banks will only be like here, so it won't be too far away. I have a feeling we'll only need one data bank. There's only 75 assembler recipes in the entire game. Sorry, 75 assembly line recipes in the entire game, and a single data bank could be able to hold, I think it's over 100. So yeah, I think we literally just need one data bank. But yeah, so if you've made it this far, thank you very much for watching. And I think the next thing on the list is actually going to be, so first of all, we can tick that. I'm probably just going to leave this for now. And the next thing on the list is going to be nuclear craft. Nuclear craft. I hate it when it does that. Breeders. So nuclear craft breeder reactors is what's next on the list, and that's what the next video will cover. So yeah, again, thank you very much for watching. I hope you all have a lovely day, and I hope you're all enjoying following along, and I'll see you guys later.